Y'all know I'm a big fan of the Batman Arkham games. I'm a big fan. Love them dearly. It was asked of me to rank them and to offer my opinions of what these games are and what they have to offer. So I figured I would do this. I mean, this is not going to take too very long. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, we're playing with 4 games here today, ladies and gents. We have Batman Arkham Asylum, we have Batman Arkham City, Batman Arkham Origins, and then Batman Arkham Knight. Origins is always the black sheep of the family, mainly because it's just like it's made by a different studio. It's taken direct inspiration. It looks different. It feels different. It's sort of like a holiday themed one. Like, it's weird. It's a weird game. But some people love it. Other people hate it. For me, it's always been perfectly meh. Perfectly meh. And if I had to rank it, I would probably say it's my least favorite of the bunch. Not dissing. It's still good, but it's like it's not as bad as everybody says it is. But for me, it's just eh. Like, if I have to pick between 4 of these and I can only have like 3 in my Steam library, it has to be one of these 3. I'm just going to pass on this one. Funnily enough, these are the same guys that would go on to make Gotham Knights. Kind of tells you everything you need to know. In terms of these games, now, full disclosure, I am extremely biased here. Arkham City is one of the first games that made me really fall in love with video games. This thing is utterly tremendous, and I love it dearly. It's the first game I ever 100% completed. It's near and dear to my heart. We went back to it recently and we tried it again for the main channel, and I thought that it was way smaller than I remember it being. The map is tiny, which was really interesting because I was like, I remember this being so much more expansive, but it's actually like a pretty minuscule map when all is said and done. But it's still a great game. I love it. I think it's aged pretty well. Graphically, it's aged pretty well. Gameplay, it's still solid. I think it's a great game. Arkham Asylum, I also went back. I replayed this whole thing recently. It's a really great game as well. Very linear. You can see the foundations of what they were trying to do with Arkham City, and it's still great. I think the combat has aged well. It's a little stiff, but it's also got major nostalgia factor. But in terms of like my favorites, I would probably put it more like B tier. As for the final option here, Batman Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, I do think, is obviously like very controversial for a lot of reasons. The easiest thing you can point to, for one, is the Batmobile. And in my critique of the game, basically what I said was like the Batmobile is a really cool mechanic that it feels like they spent millions of dollars making. And then once they finished making it and developing it, okay, maybe not millions, but thousands and thousands of dollars and tons of work hours on it. By the time they finished it, they were like, okay, we have this cool Batmobile. It's not really fun to use. All of our play testers say that it's kind of like the low point of the game, but we've put so much work into it. It's in the trailers. It's all this thing. So I feel like we should use it a lot. So let's just use it a lot. And as a result, there's huge chunks of Arkham Knight where you want to go around and be Batman and do this crazy stuff, and it's just utterly lackluster because you are forced to deal with all of this crap with the Batmobile. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of other stuff they do in Arkham Knight that's really solid that got like no press, right? Like it got like no press at all. For example, like one of my favorite things in the game is the like dynamic combat between Batman and, say, Catwoman, where you can fight in the same arenas and like bounce back and forth at the same time and swap between them. It's super cool. Very, very well done. And I feel like nobody ever talks about that, except it's like one of the highlights of the game. And that system, I think if they had made that more of a staple gameplay feature of Knight, I think it would have been better received. But because they framed everything around the Batmobile, it really limited it. Also, can't ignore it. The Batman Arkham Knight PC launch was super stuttery and broken. Very similar to Gotham Knights and now Callisto Protocol. Shader compilation issues, all sorts of problems. There's just a whole thing with it. It's kind of crazy, but it's just a whole thing. And then, like I said, Arkham City, love it dearly. So, like, ranking all of these, it's kind of tricky. Arkham Asylum, the ambiance and world building is utterly tremendous. I remember the first time I played it like it was yesterday. It was beautiful. It was amazing. Love it dearly. Origins, again, solid. I think it's good. It's a fun 10-hour romp in the Batman hay, but nothing utterly amazing. Arkham City, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody. I'm going to put that S tier. It's utterly fantastic. It's just tremendous. Tremendous, utterly. And then as for this, I would say Arkham Knight is kind of tricky to place. There's a lot of good about it. Just the Joker sequences dynamically popping up around the map are a highlight and are great. I love it. So it's just, you know, it's a tricky one to place because when it works well, I think it's A+ tier. But there's a lot of stuff in it that really, really sluggish and kind of a bit of a bummer, but still. Batman Arkham Knight has the Man-Bat jump scare, which is the best jump scare ever. Yeah, no, that jump scare is amazing. I think I still have it on a Twitch clip somewhere. Maybe I'll try to find that later. But as for placing this, like, would I rather play Origins or Knight? I think I honestly would rather play Knight. Not because, again, Origins is still good, but when I think back to the good moments in Arkham Knight, there's not much that really competes with it. And the only reason it's lower on the list is because of the technical issues, the over-reliance on the Batmobile, and the lack of focus on things that I think work well. So that's where I would put it. This is my final verdict on the Arkham series. I know that just putting Origins here is going to freak some people out, but you know what? I'm standing by it. All great games, well worth your time, but like one of the games has to be C tier. I can't just do like one of these things. It's like, yeah, I just totally non-committal. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. So that's my final verdict. That's where I'm at.